My name is Eleanor and I'm the Communications and Marketing Manager at The Big Draw. Thank you everyone so much for signing up. I'm wanting to join in with Hana Ayoob, our first Big Draw artist in residence, our digital artist in residence, and this evening she will be joining us and having a conversation at the same time with Dr Amoret Whitaker, an entomologist.
Correct, yes.
You got it right.
But can you spell it?
Pardon? See, now you're quizzing me. Now you're quizzing me. Thank you so much, Amoret, for joining us. And Hannah, I will pass over to you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Elle. I'm Hana Ayoob. I am one of the Big Draw's digital artists in residence. I'm a science communicator and an illustrator. I'm freelance, so I wear many, many different hats, pretty much depending on what day or week it is. And my background is in zoology, so my absolute sort of favourite things to draw and talk about are animals. And I have a particular fondness for the animals that get neglected, that are maybe disliked, that people even might say they hate or are terrified of. And so that's what I've been exploring today on my first day of my residency, and will be continuing to do for the rest of this week. In a little while, we are going to be drawing a blue bottle fly, but first I would like to introduce my guest for today, Dr Amoret Whitaker, who is a forensic entomologist. Would you like to say a little bit more about what you do?
Hi, yeah, so entomology, obviously study of insects, and forensic means in a legal context, so anything where the law gets involved. So this can be all sorts of things. It could be like a maggot in a hamburger or a spider in a bunch of bananas or something. More often than not, I deal with the police, so I deal with any insects that are associated with dead bodies normally. So given that we're just before dinner, I won't go into too much detail.
Thank you so much, Amoret. So we'll do a bit of drawing first, and then once you've sort of got your basic fly, Amoret and I will have a bit more of a chat about blowflies in particular, whilst you could do a little bit more drawing. So I'm just going to spotlight my table. So everyone should now be able to see my sketchbook, and I'll just give you a few seconds to, if you don't already have in front of you, grab a blank sheet of paper and a pen or a pencil. Okay, so the first thing I want you to draw on your piece of paper is a sort of semicircle shape, but with rounded corners. So like that, and this is going to be our fly's head. And then once you've done that, you're going to do two sort of curved lines in to form your eyes, like that. Then once you've got that, we're going to do a sort of curved rectangle under that, like so. And then do sort of two more of these, but start to sort of narrow them a little bit. Those three form our fly's thorax, so which corresponds to sort of our chest area. Then from this sort of bottom segment here, I want you to draw a rounded but slightly pointed at the bottom shape like that. And that's going to be our fly's abdomen. We're going to do two lines across that like so. Then next up, we're going to draw our wings. So we're going to do a sort of little dot here to mark sort of the middle and bottom of the thorax, and two more dots on either side, sort of here. So that top sort of segment of the thorax, middle of each. And then we're going to draw a wing on either side. So it's rounded, but also pointing a little bit at the bottom like that, and then the same on the other side like so. Now once you've done that, we are going to work from sort of top to bottom and add a few more details. So first I'm going to add sort of 2 just tiny mouth parts at the top. And then we are going to add some antennae. So I'm just going to do sort of 2 block-like shapes on either side of those mouth parts, like so. And then we're going to draw some legs. So from this top section of the thorax here, I'm going to draw 3 little rectangles going up to represent the legs. And then I normally add a little triangle at the top, like so. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Then we're going to do another one from the middle of the thorax on the left side. So 3 oblongs again with a triangle at the end. And same on the other side. So for the purposes of this drawing, I'm sort of treating the wings as translucent or transparent. And then we're going to do from the bottom of the thorax 2 more legs. And in between, these aren't completely accurate. We're going to just add 2 sort of little nodules, which are the fly's halteres. Now, that is sort of the base for our drawing. It's now up to you how you might like to colour that in or to decorate it. So the sort of thing you might want to do, I'm going to add some hatching to the eyes to represent sort of compound eyes, like so. And then other things you might want to do is to add detail to the wings, or you might want to add different, hold that up a bit more, add different colours. So this first one here, I've just sort of coloured in different colours. This one I've added different patterns to, which is something I do a lot with my illustrations. So you've sort of got dashes, dots, hashes, a bit of chevron patterns down here. And this is sort of a combination of the two. We've got the colours, different patterns. I've also added some veining to the wings with a silver pen. I'm going to just post in the chat a Padlet, which is sort of a web page with, I just sent it to everyone, where you'll be able to see these examples and also to post any artwork that you produce going forward. I feel like I have to like make a slight confession here that I discovered as we were chatting before this that my antennae in my examples are way too long, which I'm apparently not alone in doing. Seems to be something that other artists share, so I've made them a bit shorter here. But please have a lot of fun decorating your flies. I will say, don't feel you have to be super realistic. Take artistic license. If you want to make a rainbow fly, that is absolutely fine. And in the meantime, we're going to chat a bit more about these. So this is a blue bottle fly. And that is a type of blowfly. And am I right in thinking these are the main flies that you use in your work, Amoret?
Yes, that's right. So with forensic work, generally, under normal circumstances, the blowflies are the first insects that are going to find a dead body and start, the female's going to start laying eggs on the body. So yes, those would be blue bottles and green bottles mainly. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was interested to see how you just drew your fly, and I'm going to ask you a question now.
Okay.
Do you know if you have drawn a male or a female fly?
Ooh, I don't.
And obviously you haven't put any genitalia on there, and that's fine, because actually with blowflies you can tell from the eyes. Ah,
interesting.
So I can tell you have drawn a female blowfly because there's a gap between the eyes. Male blowflies don't have a gap. So male blowflies, the eyes are sort of close together. And female blowflies, the eyes have got a gap in the middle. So yeah, you have drawn a female.
That is ringing some bells for like some university sessions on fly eyes now. I can almost remember the diagrams. Yeah. Catherine's just asking, can I show my sample drawing? So you'll be able to find some on that Padlet link. The other thing you'll be able to do, I will just remove the spotlights, and then you should also be able to see my desk. And you can pin my desk camera for yourself if you go to sort of the 3 dots in the corner, I think. But that's really interesting. I had completely forgotten that detail about fly eyes, but it's coming back to me now.
Good.
Was it otherwise accurate? I'm always worried, especially with insects. They can be so tough to get everything in exactly the right place.
Yeah, it is difficult. It is difficult. Yeah. But no, you've basically got the main things there. I mean, the best thing you've done obviously is you've only given it 2 wings, because of course that's a key thing with flies, that they're called diptera, which means 2-winged. If you'd done 4 wings, then I would have got very upset with you. Yeah, because that means you would have drawn a wasp probably.
Is it true that the halters are sort of almost vestigial wings, so could have developed into wings?
Yeah, so they're basically sort of balancing organs now. Yeah. But I mean, this is one really good way. People always get really confused between wasps and hoverflies, because of course hoverflies are mimicking wasps, and so they're yellow and black and stripy as well. And so if you can get close enough to it, and a lot of people of course don't like getting close to wasps, see if you can count the number of wings. So if it's only got 2 wings, it means it's a hoverfly, it's not a wasp. And also just the way they move. So, you know, hoverflies literally hover, whereas wasps kind of go zzz. Yeah. So I see a lot of people trying to swat hoverflies, and they're completely harmless.
I've seen that as well. So am I right in thinking you've got some examples of fly art with you there as well?
Yes. I think something you'll find with entomologists is they get a little bit obsessive with like jewelry. So I've got a nice
I've got
pendant.
I think I've got some flies on.
So you have. So yeah, I thought the guests here would be interested in seeing some variations on flies. So this one I really like. This is actually my if I can put it in the middle, this is my Association of Forensic Entomology, European Association of Forensic Entomology, and we were asked one year to draw a logo for the association, and actually this was our Spanish colleagues who came up with this, and you can see it's incredibly effective. There's literally only about 4 brush strokes there, and you can clearly see it's a fly, and you can see it's got very small antennae as well. So I think, you know, that shows you how easy it is really to do just really simple but very effective drawings. This is I've also got this is to show you how beautiful flies are. So this is an artist called Tacey Neal, and I bought this oil painting from her, and this is a dead fly, a dead blue bottle, and it's just beautiful. You know, there is beauty in things like flies. So if you could probably do this, Hannah. I certainly couldn't draw like that.
It's an absolutely beautiful painting. I love it.
It is, yes. Couple of other things. So this is kind of how not to do it. So this is Patricia Cornwall's novel called Blowfly, and there's a lovely drawing of a fly there, but if you look at the antennae, they're really far too long, and so whoever's drawn this has thought, oh, those antennae don't look right, I'm going to make them much longer. And then finally, some of you might have seen this little book by Magnus Muir. And actually, again, these are just like pencil drawings, but these are fantastic. These are where he basically takes dead flies. I think these are actually house flies rather than blue bottles, and just sort of adds very simple pencil lines to them to sort of anthropomorphize them. But, you know, it's amazing what you can do with a few dead flies, really. So don't let them go to waste.
Might have to try that next time I find one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If I should say, if anyone's got any questions, do let us know in the chat. And remember that you can post your own artwork onto the Padlet if you'd like me to share it later. But I'm really interested in how you ended up specialising in blowflies and in forensic entomology. What did that sort of route look like?
I wonder that all the time myself. It sounds like you and I have got quite a similar background, apart from the fact you can draw and I can't. But we both did zoology at university, and I thought I would come out and save polar bears or gorillas or some kind of lovely big furry charismatic animal. And actually the first time I looked down a microscope and saw insects, I was just completely hooked, and everything after that was just all about insects. In fact, the first insects that I specialized in were fleas, which are also not particularly loved insects, it has to be, like blowflies, but they are fascinating. They are absolutely fascinating. So if you want to make that your next project, drawing a flea, please, please, please get me involved, because they're just wonderful. They are just the most amazing creatures. But yes, I worked at the Natural History Museum and still work with them as a consultant. And traditionally, the fleas and the flies were kept together on the same floor. And once I'd got to the end of my flea contract, writing the Handbook of British Fleas, I then got to know the person that worked on blowflies and decided to do a PhD and basically specialize in forensics. So if anybody's out there kind of thinking, oh, I don't know what to do with my life, don't worry about it, because life will find you. Basically, it might be a little bit of a rocky road, or a bit, lots of winds and turns, but in the end you will find something that is just fascinating.
Yeah, I think I know so many people who've had these sort of windy roads and have ended up, ending up somewhere that they absolutely love what they do. I did zoology, then did business studies, then worked in a medical charity, then sort of found my way back to science communication and my love of animals all over again. So it's amazing where things can take us.
Yeah.
So do you work with any other species, or is it sort of just blowflies these days?
It is mainly blowflies. The reason being that generally what the police are asking me to do is to estimate minimum time since death. And so the way you do that is if you can estimate how old the insects are that are associated with the body, then you can estimate the minimum time that the person's, or the animal indeed, has been deceased. And because blowflies are generally the first insects to find the body, those are going to give you the most accurate minimum time since death. So there are other insects that are associated with bodies. So things like flesh flies, where the name is sarcophagid, which but flesh flies is what they're called. And I noticed actually one of the drawings that you showed that you did earlier had a lot of kind of crisscrosses. So if you see those kind of quite large black and white sort of checkerboard flies out, sunning themselves on a sunny day, then those are probably flesh flies, because they have that very distinctive sort of checkerboard black and white pattern. So yeah, I mean there's lots and lots of different species of flies, but blowflies is what I specialize in.
And I think blue bottles and green bottles are the blowflies that I know of. Are they the two sort of main species or groups, or are there other blowflies out there?
There are others, and obviously different countries will have different species of blowflies. So you'll get some species that are you kind of find all over Europe and in other on other continents as well. And then obviously you get certain species of blowfly which we don't get here, but you'll get them in America, for instance, or Australia. But they all kind of inhabit the same kind of ecological niche. So yeah, there are lots and lots of species. I mean, there's number of I was just looking up the figures today. Number of species of blowflies worldwide are about 1,200 species. So there's quite a lot. Obviously, there's loads more to discover as well.
Wow, that's amazing. Oh, I know I had more questions, but I'm trying to think of more. I've already asked you about your reading. I'm going to ask, so I know about this from listening to another interview with you. Is it true that you have a motorbike named after a beetle, or used to at some point?
I do. In fact, that was my first motorbike that I called Hister. And actually, Hister is a type of beetle, because the motorbike was basically lovely black shiny, and the kind of curved petrol tank looked like the kind of carapace of a beetle. I've actually got another motorbike now, which is a bigger motorbike, and it's green, and so that one is called Lucilia, which is that's the type of green bottle blowfly. So yes, I do tend to name things, motorbikes, and things after insects. And my chickens I name after insects as well. So they're called things like bee and flea and things like that.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So we've got a few minutes left. So if anyone would like to share their flies on the Padlet, do that. We've got one which will screen share to show everyone in a little while. Also let us know if you have any more questions. So in addition to your sort of consulting on cases, do you do active research into forensic entomology as well?
I do when I can find the time, yes. I teach as well. So I'm a full-time university lecturer, and I do casework. And so I have students, and every year I try and encourage my students to do entomology projects. I also have PhD students as well. And so they do research. I've got obviously all the research I did for my PhD. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those topics that you would think that we know everything there is to know about things like the humble blowfly, but it's incredible how little we do know, really. Because a lot of science funding now is about kind of big projects, and whereas the sort of simple things like how long does a blowfly live, or how many eggs does a blowfly lay, or whatever, those are sort of questions that a lot of people think perhaps aren't that interesting or that important, but actually if you're doing work like forensic entomology, then those questions are really important.
It seems amazing that we wouldn't necessarily know how long a fly like the blowfly, which is something that is quite present in our lives, lives. That's amazing. Yeah. We've had a question which is, what case are you most proud of helping with? No need to name names, but just the part that you played.
Gosh, I mean, you have to say all of them, really. I mean, definitely there are some cases that can affect you more. You can become more kind of emotionally attached to them because of whatever the circumstances are. But I think every unexplained or unexpected death is a tragic one. So it maybe the obvious thing is murder, maybe suicide, maybe drugs overdose, maybe accidental, whatever it is. The family, whoever's left, wants to know what happened to that person. And obviously the identity of the person is really important, but quite often a lot of answers can be addressed if we know when the person died. So especially if somebody's been missing for a while, for instance, the police want to know how long that person's been deceased, and then they can start to kind of focus in on that time period. So quite often I'll be called in at the start of an investigation. I'll give in my report that says this is the minimum time I think this person's been deceased. And then, of course, the police gather all sorts of other evidence, which can then perhaps become more, more important or whatever. But certainly, I think every single case you work on you know, is important. Yeah, even if it's not sort of high profile, even if it's not, you know, in the papers or whatever. Yeah.
Great, that was a really lovely answer. Thank you so much. I'm just going to share a few things that we've had shared with us. If I can pull my screen up. So here we go. So that's one of the
Great.
flies that was shared with us on the Padlet, which is
Brilliant.
really, really good. And I love the little short antennae there as well.
Excellent, excellent. And it's a female as well.
Yes, it is. And I think we've had one over on Twitter as well. So I'm just going to stop sharing and then switch over. 1 second. So Professor Alice Roberts has shared a few flies. Thank you so much, Alice.
Brilliant.
That's
a nice one.
Love that one. I've got a picture in progress as well. So thank you so much, everyone who's joined us today. Thank you so much for joining me as well, Amoret. I think we're pretty much out of time now. Thank you as well to the Big Draw for both the residency and for organising this session. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye.